Hello everyone, welcome to channel Qtomation. In today's session we will see how to find sum of elements of all the list elements. Right, so for example, let's say we have one list, my list, which is having following elements, and we want to calculate the sum of all these elements. So output should be sum of elements of list is 50. So if we calculate the summation of all these elements, 2 plus 3 plus 5 plus 10 plus 30, it should get output as 50. So that should calculate the sum of all the elements of my list. So now let's see practically how we can do it. So I'm just going to PyCharm. In the PyCharm, let's create one Python file, new Python file. I'm just naming it as sum of elements in list dot python file. So we have created one Python file. Now let's use the same my list. So my list is having following elements 2, 3, 5, 10 and 30. I am going to define one variable, that is total, that initially has value of 0. After that, there are two approaches we will see. So first approach is by using for loop with range function. So how we can use for loop with range function? So I'm just going to start with one for loop for I in range, and that range should start with initial index. So initial index will be 0, from 0 to up to the last element of that specific list, right? So we can just mention length of my list. So we are using for function which for loop with range function. The index starts with 0 so that it will go up to the length of my list. So now the length of my list will return 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So length is 5. So the range will start from 0 to 5, but we know that range will be up to from 0 to 4, right? So it will count 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4 up to last element of the my list, right? So in this for loop, we are going to use total equals to total plus my list of I. So what this for loop will do, so it will just iterate the element one by one and it will perform the addition operation. For example, in the first iteration for I in range 0, right? So first the value of I will be 0. So total is also 0 here. And on the 0th index, the value of element present on 0th index is 2. So in the first iteration, total will be total plus my list of I, that is 0th element, that is 2. So it will perform 0 plus 2 and it will store the value of 2 in total. In the next iteration, it will fetch the value of 3, right? So total, that is 2 now, 2 equals to, after that it will just perform total plus my list of ith element, that is first element, that is 3. So it will store the value of 5. After that, it will again add the 5 values, so it will become 10. In the next iteration, it will again add 10, so it will become 20. And in the next iteration it will again add 30. So overall it will perform summation of all the elements present in my list. After the iteration ends, it will print the value of total as well. So let's print the value of total after the iteration ends. So I'm just going to print sum of all elements is, then let's put comma and let's use total. And now let's execute this program. So I'm just going to use execute the program. So you can see here, right? So sum of all element is 50. So it performs the addition operation by using for loop with range function. So this is the approach 1. I'm going to show you approach 2 as well. So let's see approach 2. Approach 2 is very straightforward. We can simply use sum method to perform the sum of all the elements in my list. So I'm going to comment this code, and I'm going to use the same my list. So let's comment this part as well. And now I'm going to use this my list. So we have defined list. I'm going to use, or I'm simply going to print sum of elements, then let's put comma, and we can simply use sum method, and in that method we can pass our my list. So this method will perform, or this method will return the summation operation on all the elements present in my list, and it will simply return that value. So now let's run this program. So when we run this program, it will simply print sum of elements, that is 50, right? So this is approach 2 by using sum method, very straightforward. Yeah. So we have seen two approaches. First one is for using for loop and range function. We can simply define and we can add all the elements in the iterations, and we can store that additional of elements in total variable, and then at the end of the iteration we will simply printing sum of all elements. And approach 2 is using by sum method. We can simply straightforward calculate the summation of all the elements in my list. So thank you for watching. In the coming session we will see some more videos.